Welcome dear students for the third session of our basic studies class of St. Peter's College, Nagpur, Nigam branch. So we are in our 12th lesson, which is management. So today we are going to do a very important part in this management lesson, which is in your syllabus. So before stepping into our today's part, if I just recap you of what we have done so far, or if you have watched our previous two lessons, so we have already done a section called management process and decision making process. So the previous two videos are about that. So when we were discussing about the management process, we learned that management itself is a process which has four managerial functions, which are known as planning, organizing, leading and controlling. So in that particular video, we briefly learned about each of these functions, and I mentioned that the rest of the lesson is actually built upon detailed explanations on each of these functions separately. So today what we are going to discuss is we are going to learn about the first managerial function, which is planning in a very detailed and in-depth manner. So we are coming to the competency level 12.6 according to your syllabus, and it's about preparing plans to achieve goals effectively. Or in other words, in this section, we will be discussing about planning in a very detailed manner. So before going into details, if you remember in our previous videos, I briefly explained what planning is. So there I mentioned that there are two important factors in planning. So that means when we say planning, even in the definitions, there are two important things that you have to remember. First one is establishing the goals and objectives. And then the second one is determining how to achieve those goals and objectives. Or in other words, I give another word for that. How to achieve means strategies. So basically, what do we want to achieve and how do we want to achieve. So that's what we learned in our previous lessons about planning. So here, today I have put two definitions of planning which have been introduced by several authors or experts in management. So if we go through these two definitions, the first one says the process of establishing goals and a suitable course of action for achieving those goals. Okay? And I have highlighted establishing goals and suitable course of action. If you look at the second definition, it says deciding the goals and objectives of an organization and preparing how to meet them. Okay, so here also I have highlighted deciding the goals and objectives and how to meet them. So if you closely examine these two definitions, it is also talking about two important things. Okay, what are they talking about? That is also about establishing goals and objectives and a suitable course of action. Suitable course of action means, in other words, strategies or how to achieve them. So here also it says second definition, deciding the goals and objectives, that means deciding what to achieve and then how to achieve them. So simply what you have to learn as the definition of planning is those two factors. Okay. Now here it says planning is a process. Okay. So we learned that management is a process initially. Now the first managerial function, which is planning, here also we have to learn that planning is a process. So our next discussion will be to discuss about the steps of this planning process. So there are 9 steps to this process. So let's learn one by one. Okay. The first step to the planning process is establishing goals. Okay. So you have to actually, we will be discussing about what these goals are, what objectives are in our next video. But before going into that, let's learn briefly what this means. So basically, a goal is a long-term expectation that an organization wishes to achieve. Okay. So when I say long-term, it's something always beyond an year's time. So it can be something that the organization wants to achieve in a year's time, 2 years time, 5 years time, 10 years time, like that. So it's a long-term expectation. So the first step to planning process should be to formulate a long-term goal. And one important thing to note here is when you are establishing the goals, it has to be aligned with the vision and the mission of the organization. So in the next section we'll be discussing about the vision and the mission in detail. But just for now, just know that whatever the goals that we are setting at the initial stage of planning has to help the organization to make the vision and the mission of the organization a reality. Okay, so when the organization has the vision and the mission, the goals cannot be something else. So the goals has to support the achievement of the vision and the mission. So for an example, now if we talk about goals, here I have mentioned an example. It says expanding the market share by 10% within 2 years. So this is a goal. So it says 2 years, so which is a long term, right? So what the organization wishes to achieve in the long run or within 2 years is to expand their current market share by 10%. So this is an example of a goal. So this could be the initial stage, or this could be the initiative to start planning, where the rest of the process will support the organization to make this goal a reality. So whatever the next steps that we will be doing in our planning process will be to help us to make this goal of expanding the market share by 10% within 2 years a reality. Okay. So without establishing long-term goals, it is not possible for the organization to carry out the planning process successfully. So we come to the second stage, which is identifying objectives and strategies. So here, objectives means actually short-term expectations. Okay, so goals are long-term, objectives are short-term expectations. So short-term means something that the organization would want to achieve in less than 1 year's time. Okay, it can be either 1 month, 6 months, or less than a year's time. So strategies, you already know, because we have already explained this several times. So strategies means how to achieve them. So basically, here initially we know what we want to achieve in the long run, and then we can break it down into a short-term objective, and then we have to determine, okay, how are we going to do that? Okay, so what is our goal that we want to achieve in the long run? That is to expand the market share by 10% within 2 years. Okay, so we can break it down into a short-term objective. Okay, before going into this 2 years period, we can do something in the short term to help to achieve or help to reach this goal. Okay, so what can we do in the short run? We can introduce a new product to capture a new target market by the end of this year. So maybe let's say within 6 months. Okay, let's say we are in the month of May, and within 6 to 7 months, we are hoping to introduce a new product, hoping that it would help us to increase our market share and it would support our long-term goal. Okay, so we have established what we want to do in the short run and the strategy to do that. Okay, so that is the second step to planning. And then after determining where we are going to, or after determining which direction the organization is heading, then we have to see, okay, what factors would influence our planning process. So these factors can come from the environment, business environment. So for that, we have to conduct an environmental analysis. So I think from our first lessons, you all know that the business environment can be divided into two parts, as the internal environment and the external environment. So in the external environment, you have strengths and weaknesses, and in the external environment, you have opportunities and threats. Okay. So what we can do in the environmental analysis is a SWOT analysis. So I'm sure you are aware of this SWOT analysis. So you know, strengths and weaknesses can come from the internal environment, which are controllable for the organization. But the opportunities and threats which are coming from the external environment can be uncontrollable. So in that case, what the organization can do is to adapt themselves and make strategies to face these uncontrollable situations. But if it is something that is happening internally, like a strength and a weakness, then the organization can take steps internally to control that. Okay? But it's different when it comes to the external environment impacts. So these things can actually influence the achievement of goals and objectives. So that is why conducting an environmental analysis is very important at this stage, because if we don't know what are the threats, what are the opportunities that are coming from the environment and what are our strengths, then we cannot make a measurement, or we cannot measure how that's going to help us in the achievement of the goals and objectives. Okay, so things like strengths and opportunities can influence our planning process or the achievement of goals and objectives in a positive manner, right? And things like the weaknesses and threats, they can influence our achievement of goals and objectives in a negative manner, right? So that is why we have to have a clear understanding of what factors could help us to achieve our goals and objectives, and what factors could detract us from reaching our goals and objectives. So accordingly, we can kind of get an idea of how the organization needs to perform in the future and how the planning process should be organized in a proper manner. Okay? And then we come to the fourth stage, which is the resource analysis, right? So here we have to see which resources are required to achieve the goals and objectives of the organization. Okay, so we know what we want to achieve. What is our goal? We want to increase our market share by 10% in the next 2 years. Okay, so we have to see at this stage, okay, in order to do that, do we have the necessary resources? Do we have the human resources? Do we have the required staff for that? And do we have the required physical resources? And do we have the money to do that? Do we have the right people, right set of people with the right set of skills and qualities? So likewise, we have to see which condition we are in terms of the resources. And also, we have to understand, okay, in terms of our strengths and weaknesses, where are we compared to our current and the future competitors. Now let's say right now we are company X and there's a company called company Y, and company Y is the market leader which has captured the highest amount of the market, and we are currently the second in terms of the market share. Now we want to beat company Y's market share by expanding our market share by further 10%. That is what we want to do. Okay. Now in this stage we have to see, okay, in order to do that, in order to beat company Y, in terms of the strengths and weaknesses, where are we? What are our strengths compared to company Y? And what are our weaknesses compared to company Y? Because it might help us to get an idea of where we are standing and how far do we need to go. Right? So if we have an idea about who we are, what our capabilities are, then it will definitely help us in the planning process in order to come up with the relevant strategies or the most suitable strategies and the most suitable actionable outcomes, actionable alternatives in order to achieve our goals and objectives. So which is why analyzing the resources that we have becomes a very important part in the planning process. And then we come to the fifth stage, which is the identification of opportunities and threats. Okay, so after we conduct the environmental and the resource analysis, the firms need to separately identify, or they have to do a separate analysis to identify the opportunities and threats. You know, these opportunities and threats, as I mentioned before, can come from the external environment. So in the external environment also, we have the macro environment where we have the political environment, technological environment, technological and political, yes, demographic. So there are so many variables that can impact the organization. So these macro factors can actually create either opportunities or threats for the organization. So whatever the things that we are planning, like no matter how much we are planning, even a simple factor like the government imposing a strict regulation on business activities, or government increasing the interest rates or increasing the taxes, that can have huge impact on our entire planning process and on our entire path towards achieving the goals and objectives. So which is why we have to be vigilant as organizations in our planning process. We have to be vigilant about what is coming from our external environment. So it can be technological changes. So in our process of expanding the market share by 10%, so maybe let's say we are going to come up with a new product. Now suddenly that technology becomes outdated and there's a new technology the next day. So in that case, it is up to the organization to make it an opportunity and to make use of that new technology and make it for the betterment of the organization and to make the planning process a success. So if that becomes a threat to the organization, then the entire planning process would not be successful. So that is why, so all those threats and opportunities coming from the external environment has to be properly monitored, and whatever the opportunities have to be taken in a positive way, and there has to be strategies to develop to successfully tackle the threats that are coming from the external environment. So that is what we do from our fifth stage. And we have the sixth stage, that is identification and analysis of performance gap. Now here what we are doing is, we have to see how far does the current situation influence to achieve the expectations. Okay, now what does that mean? So, we have our current situation, okay, and we also know our expected situation. That means, expected situation means where we are heading to. So, we have the current situation and our expected situation, and we have to now, in this step, we have to say what sort of a gap is there between these two situations and how far are we or how close are we to reach the expected situation. So this is called, actually, this is a gap analysis where we analyze about where are we now and where do we want to go and the extent of that gap. Okay, so if we realize that okay, we are really far from our current situation, we have to really work hard and we are really far from achieving our objective, our long-term goal, then the organization has to develop a successful strategy that could help us to reach our goal in a successful manner. But if we feel okay, right now the pace that we are going is okay, so which is helping us to reach our expectation successfully, then we can go in the same pace. But if we feel that the gap is high and what we are doing right now is not really helping us, then certain changes has to be done in the planning process. The planning process has to be changed and the required things have to be done by the managers to make this gap minimal. Okay. And then we come to the seventh stage, which is making strategic decisions and preparation of the plan. So if you watched our previous video, which was about decision making process, so we learned that when decision making, so when you have a problem, decision making is about identifying the most suitable alternative or solution out of all the alternatives that are available. So that is simply what we are doing here. So we call it strategic decision making. Okay, that means we evaluate all the alternatives which are available for us, and then we select the most suitable strategy that would help us to reach our ultimate goal. Now in this case, what is our ultimate goal? To increase the market share by 10%. So here we have to see, okay, what are the different alternatives that are available for us to make it successful, and out of all those alternatives, we are going to select the best possible alternative. Okay. So in selecting that, we have to see how practical it is, how flexible it is, and whether it is affordable for us. So all those factors have to be considered. So eighth step, that is where we implement the strategies. So here we just make the strategic decisions or we just plan. But here, eighth step is where you practically implement the strategies or the plan. So here, whatever the plan that we selected here has to be practically implemented. And then the last stage, that is measuring the success and controlling. Okay. So this entire planning process, we have to see now when we are doing this, whether are we going in the right track, whether we are doing the right thing. So in order to ensure that, we have to conduct regular reviews on the success of our implemented plan. So if our plan is like a 2-year plan, so we cannot wait until the 24 months are over to conduct a review. But every month or maybe every 2 months, you have to conduct a review just to see whether the path that we are heading is right. So if we conduct regular reviews only, that will help us to understand whether there are any deviations. So if the organization finds any deviations or any changes, or if they feel that the path that we are going is not right and it is not helping us to achieve our goals, then the necessary changes have to be made in order to correct that or in order to make our planning process successful. So without controlling the planning process, we cannot expect the planning process to be successful. So those are the 9 steps of the planning process, and I hope you all have got a better idea about the entire planning process. So this is not about it. I mean, we have so many other things to discuss about planning also. So I hope to bring you all another video where we will be discussing about what are the things that should be included in a properly prepared plan and some important things to note when planning. So I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you for joining.